Hank Pearl here, backstage at Reggie's, sitting with Moloch from Melechesh. How you doing, my friend?
Good.
So your American tour has been a little bit more easy than the European one, it's sounding like, with all the diseases that were going around in Europe, correct?
In that sense, it's a bit easier, but I mean, we just had a 6-month tour with Nile in Europe, which went great. Except everybody, once someone gets sick on the bus, everybody gets sick. And the flu this season was rather bad, so we all had weird lung infections and cracked ribs from coughing, which actually we didn't know that happened until now. So Ashmedai and I are in still a lot of pain, but you know, we're recovering, so everything is good.
That's just amazing that you guys can get so sick you have cracked ribs, but you still keep going.
I know. Hey, you learn things every day.
And how was the tour with Nile? I mean, that's a whole Middle Eastern lineup right there. How was the reaction from the fans? What was that experience like?
It was great. I think lots of people were anticipating a tour with Nile, just because both bands have themes that are quite similar. You know, them dealing with Egypt, us dealing with Mesopotamia. So it was great. It was really great. I mean, it was great crowd reaction, full clubs every night. It was a long tour, 36 dates, and really every night was very satisfying. So musically, thematically, the bands were happy, the crowds were happy, and I think in a way, we accomplished the first at having Middle Eastern themed metal, extreme metal, you know, for this first tour for this genre. So we're very proud of what we did.
How it's interesting you bring up bands like Nile and whatnot with their stage show, much like your stage show. It's amazing how with your music there's a lot of imagery involved. You go to many different places, but neither one of you dress up like mummies or Mesopotamian peoples or anything like that. So you let the music do the talking. What's been Melechesh's reason for not really doing it?
You have to be credible. The thing is, all of this could turn into a gimmick. And that's where we draw the line in Melechesh. You know, this cannot turn into a gimmick. This cannot turn into Aladdin Disney-themed music over metal riffs. And we know where to draw the line because we come from there. We know this music and we know metal music, and we swore an oath in the beginning to be credible. So once you start dressing like a mummy on stage, you can easily fall into the gimmick. And where, you know, we don't need a dress to speak for the music. This music speaks for itself. And as you said, it's very visual. And the way we compose is very visual, actually. We write riffs with images in mind. So we want to rely on that. We want the music to do the talking and not, you know, gimmicks.
Gotcha. Talking about being from there, you moved to Holland in '98, correct?
I moved to France.
You moved to France. You went to Holland. How do you guys stay connected with the Middle East over the decades now that you don't live there as much?
Well, you know, the Melechesh concept started in Jerusalem and Bethlehem and where I used to live. And you know, 6 years of that, and that's enough to set the goal. And then you go on exploring and exploring and exploring. And you need to be there physically, you know. Being in touch with Persian music and Indian music is actually easier in Europe than it is in the Middle East because you have access to all these concerts of Persian musicians cannot play in Jerusalem, yet they can play in Amsterdam or in Paris. So we were still being exposed to this kind of music and exploring even beyond the Arab world, Persian music and Indian music. And we were just committed to exploring more and more. Of course, you know, Dutch weather is not really inspiring to write this music, to say the least. I just fucking hate that weather. But at the end of the day, it's really deep in your soul. So, and the music helps you recreate it somehow. It helps you get rid of those gray clouds and create some, you know, sandstorms and what you may say.
Cool.
So yeah, so you don't need to be physically there, but we go there. I mean, I go there at least once a year. Ashby goes there also, and we go there. We bring our guitars to write music.
Does your family still live in Jerusalem?
Yeah, both of our families.
Cool. What specifically do you still look at and still causes you to have your dissent of what's going on in Jerusalem today?
Closed-mindedness, an unwillingness to be an outcast. I mean, not outcast, but an unwillingness to be different, to do things and look at things in a different way. You know, it could be things as simple as our families understanding why we do this, whereas for us it allows us to actually live life fully instead of being in a fucking godforsaken office working from 9 to 5, and which is, you know, I mean, a lot of our friends do that and they hate it. But the mentality there is you have to do that. You can't have fun. You can't enjoy life fully. You can't. And so it ranges from simple things like this to disgusting politics, you know, that discriminate people, or, you know, religious views that stop human beings from flourishing, and so there's a wide variety of things that still piss us off, and you could find not only in Jerusalem but also elsewhere.
How is that with developing this Mesopotamian sound and finding other Middle Eastern sounding bands and just making this genre grow? Are you finding other bands that are carrying on these themes and taking them further in a positive direction that you feel?
Well, I don't think it's a genre yet, which is probably a good thing, because all these bands who use Middle Eastern music to diffuse in their extreme metal do it in such different ways. I mean, Nile and Melechesh, people think they're very similar, but they sound very different, and yet they use these similar influences in just such different ways. So it speaks to the potential of a genre. You know, like if bands could pick up on this, and there's still a lot of room for creativity. So we're hoping that people will follow this lead, and more bands are doing it. You know, so
Gotcha.
we just wish them the best.
How much time do you guys spend just reading and researching and writing and doing your homework?
I mean, we've been doing it for a while. Like I said, there's a lot of research being done, and there has been since the very beginning. You know, even in the demo days, we had this journal called The Order of Mesopotamia, and we were writing articles and Mesopotamian gods, theology, cosmology, and so forth. And this has been going on. It's been an ongoing process, and I think we're moved from simple research where you are driven, fact-driven, what was written back then, to recreation, interpretation, recreation. That's how can you relate to these texts that were written thousands of years ago, now, us, Melechesh, Jerusalem, Holland, France, as individuals? How can we relate? How can we use these things to talk about existential, things that we feel on our daily basis? So I think that's the step we've taken with this album. Also before, but a lot with this album is where we're personalizing a lot of this. So I feel there's less research happening now as before. There's more interpretation where we sit down and talk about these things and inject them into our daily lives and recreate them in our modern times.
Have you found any parallels between what you have read from millennia ago to today that have just blown you away?
At the end of the day, human beings come with a set of questions. I think, for me, what defines human beings are basic questions. Who are we? Why are we here? And then there are a multitude of answers. Mesopotamian culture and mythology is one of these answers, but there are many answers out there, other traditions, and these people were responding to basic questions they experience as human beings, and that's what links us all. Of course, different times, different language, different perception of technology, of gods, of science, but for me, I think I'm a perennialist in that sense. I think we're driven by these questions, and so what they wrote is what we could relate to today. And Gilgamesh, for example, is about death. What gets us close as human beings is this ultimate question: is why are we here and why does it all end? So the first written text was about this. So of course you could relate to it as a human being now, with our times. Science might have changed, but still, you still relate to it.